So I told you guys that I would take you on the journey of my health and start documenting when I'm noticing irregularities or imbalance. And I would at least, try to communicate, well, what was going on? What was I feeling? And then what steps am I taking to restore? So right now I am noticing that I've got additional cellulite that I didn't used to have on the backs of my legs and thighs. My saddlebags are getting a little bit wider, which is, it happens. I'm getting a little older, particularly as we go through perimenopause. Women start to add on excessive weight in the gut, in the midsection, and I'm noticing that there's a little extra here as well as I'm poking around on it. And generally speaking, like over the last, 3 or 4 years, I've been able to manage my menstrual cycle without any issues. Like I've not really noticed anything. I'm one of the fortunate ones that I really have not had a poor menstrual cycle, but I did notice 4 or 5 years ago that I started having a lot of discomfort, breast swelling, heavy flow, bloating, headaches, migraines before my period, but it would start for about 2 weeks. And that buildup of just agitation, irritability, all of this stuff that felt like it was backing up. I don't have quite to that degree, but I am noticing that I've got some breast tenderness, particularly underneath the arms where there are some big lymph nodes. I get very swollen and tender, so it can sometimes be painful. I do get constipated, but that's, constipation is very normal for me. I am a vata pitta, so dry, and uh, I tend to be dehydrated. I often will go through bouts of anemia. These are all really common signs and symptoms that lymph is not draining properly. So let's talk a little bit about the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is part of the immune system. It has roughly somewhere between 500 and 700 lymph nodes. Those lymph nodes are sites that hold lymphocytes, and they also hold lymph fluid, and they are responsible for the transportation of white blood cells around the body. Now, they're also responsible for ridding the body of toxins and waste. So you can imagine if your lymph system isn't functioning properly, then all of this toxic buildup is just hanging out in your bloodstream. And eventually it's circulating around through all of the different tissues. Now, one of the things that the lymph system does is it maintains fluid balance in the tissues. So it is responsible for the interstitial fluid, which is the fluid around the cells. It's also made from plasma. So plasma is like the white, kind of filmy stuff that's part of blood. It helps the body to rid of toxins and waste, like I said, and the spleen, thymus, and your tonsils are part of the system. Recently, and I don't know that this has been fully confirmed, but I did read an article that recently they have even determined that the appendix is part of the lymph system. So if you've had your appendix removed, then chances are that it's probably gotten incredibly inflamed and irritated, which would create, the desirable conditions for it to burst, which means that your body is probably not getting rid of the toxins. And so your lymph system is extremely important. 70 to 80% of the lymph system sits within the gut. So you can imagine that if you're not digesting properly, if you're not eating properly, then your lymph system probably has no ability to function at its peak performance. So what are some of the common things that you can do to counteract this? I mean, I talked to you about some of the symptoms. Swelling is very common, soreness, weakness, general fatigue or chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, roaming pain. Let's see what else. The swelling of kind of the midsection, so you're holding on to weight and it's almost impossible to get rid of it. Cellulite, any kind of swelling on an airplane, if your fingers swell after exercise, these are all very common symptoms of lymph not draining and moving properly. If you've ever seen, the guys out there that have the big distended belly, and it looks really hard and round, think Santa Claus belly, this is a sign that lymph, basically the lymph fluid has not drained out of this area. And so it creates, this perfect storm for illness and disease, because your lymphatic system is the one that goes in and fights. infection, it fights bacteria, it fights disease, and it helps to rid the body of any cells that are abnormal or any cells that are no longer functioning properly. So this is really, really critical because if you don't get rid of those, then they will create an environment for tissue damage and disease to set in. So what am I doing for managing these symptoms that I'm feeling right now? I also want to point out that I also tend to run very cold. So my fingers, my toes, my extremities, you'll see me that I'll have socks on and it's the summertime, right? So I tend to run very cold. This is also another sign that lymph is not draining properly. So what are some of the things that I'm doing right now? Well, I started because I needed some motivation. I started creating a 30-day leg challenge because I really want to focus on muscle toning and strengthening, but I also want to help my lower extremities kind of get the circulation going. So I created a 30-day leg challenge. That's one thing, which means basically I want to instill movement back into my life. Yes, I teach yoga. I don't teach it as often as I would like to. So I'm not getting as much movement in my daily life, my daily routine. I need at least 30 minutes. That means I'm out walking, jogging, running, dancing, singing, and swimming, doing something that is creating a situation for movement. 30-day leg challenge, that's only 15 minutes. 15 minutes a day, 15 to 20, depends. Some of my videos are a little longer. But that's only about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm focused purely on weight training, using my body. So I'm not lifting weights. I didn't go to the gym. I am just using my body to help restore. There are specific yoga practices and yoga asanas that you can do. I'll have a couple of those available as well. But there are a series of different asanas that will help to twist into the spleen, that will help to twist into the liver, that get things flowing and moving, doing inversions like downward facing dog. These are all really, really helpful because you're moving and circulating the blood. The faster that we can circulate the blood, the better off we're going to be at circulating the lymph. So movement is extremely important. So some form of exercise. So that's one thing that I'm doing. So sweat therapy, this is another option. Sweat therapy, what does that mean? So using sauna, a hot bath, a steam room, going outside and working up a glycine, working up some sweat. This is one of the fastest ways that you can remove toxins from the body. So yes, you can use sauna. It's amazing. You need to make sure that you do that with supervision if you're trying to do it for therapeutic purposes. So you don't want to go overboard and completely dehydrate yourself because your lymph needs fluid, right? Your interstitial fluid is wet. So you don't want to run the risk of dehydration. So make sure that if you're going to do sauna or steam rooms, things of this nature, that you're doing it in short bursts of time and it's not maybe on an every single day basis. Movement would be the preferable way to work up your sweat. So sweating is a great way. Sweat comes out your glands and out of the skin, and your skin is a massive organ, and people don't realize this, which brings me to my other point. So we talked now about exercise and movement. We talked about sweat therapy. Another thing that I'm doing on regular is I'm making sure that I'm doing a dry brush. So that's using a natural natural bristle brush and or a natural silk glove and rubbing it over my body and making sure that I'm going in a clockwise motion and I'm sloughing off the dead skin. I'm doing it from my extremities. So I start with my feet, I work up to my trunk, then I go to my hands, I work into this general area. Your largest amount of lymph and lymph sites is in the gut. So this is called the GALT, the gut-associated lymph area. And when you are doing your dry brushing, you are stimulating all of these lymph nodes that sit subcutaneous. Okay, so they're not the ones that are really deep, but all of these have an impact on how you sweat and get rid of the toxins, right? So if we can slough off the dead skin and we open up the pores, then you're able to allow the toxins to seep out. The other thing too is that when doing that kind of a massage, dry brushing, remember this is not wet, this is dry, you are rubbing the skin and creating an environment for those lymph nodes to become stimulated. When you do that, you follow it up with Abhyanga. So Abhyanga is a daily oil massage, and this is a massage. It's not a rub a little bit of oil here. It is a no, I'm going to work this into my body. I'm going to take the time to really feel myself and move that oil in. The reason why we do the oil is because often lymph drainage is one of the symptoms of being dehydrated. And so using the oil will actually help to trap moisture and hang on to it in the body. And then that massage, once again, is activating those lymph nodes and creating a situation where they feel stimulated and they feel secure to release. Another thing is that dehydration. Do not get dehydrated. People often think that when they live in a cooler environment that they don't need as much water. And the truth is that we all probably walk around in a daily constant state of dehydration. So what does dehydration look like? Well, you could be drinking 32, 48, 64 ounces of water a day, but if you're not replenishing with nutrients, so meaning things like electrolytes, these are the sodium, magnesium, potassium. These are all of the wonderful vitamins and minerals that are responsible for carrying signals throughout the body. All of this connective tissue runs throughout the body and it must have water. Not just water, it has to have electrolytes. So if you aren't getting enough sodium and potassium, magnesium, and phosphorus, zinc, all of these wonderful minerals, then the chances are that you are not nearly as electrically conductive as you need to be. So if you're just drinking water, I would recommend that you start adding a little pink Himalayan salt to it. Maybe change out one of your, glasses of water, maybe change it out for some coconut water. Unsweetened coconut water is an amazing electrolyte. You could use maple water. You could add some trace mineral drops to your water. This helps to make sure that you are maintaining a good mineral balance and that you haven't just flushed all of that out with drinking too much water. So hydration is extremely important. That gives plenty of fluid for the body where it doesn't feel like it has to pull it out of the tissues. If you pull water away from the tissues, you dehydrate them, but you also constrict the ability for the nutrients to float and flow around the body, which means that you're also constricting the ability for the lymph to exit the body. So dehydration, avoiding that is another really critical aspect. You need to avoid cold foods. I know this is hard for many of you that love to have ice in your water and your tea and your drinks. This is a big one. So what happens in the body when it gets hit with something that's frozen, something that's cold? Basically, all of the energy is used to keep the body warm. And when that coldness comes in, let's say that this is your normal dilated blood vessel. When the coldness comes in, vasoconstriction takes place and you have very, very little room in which for blood to flow, in which the lymph can remove properly. And so you want to make sure that you're doing things that are keeping your body at a nice, comfortable basal temperature. So long periods of prolonged exposure to the cold, including what you're eating. So if you love eating ice cream in the winter, that's a very bad idea for moving lymph and for creating a good circulatory environment because it's already really cold outside and you're adding in frozen dairy. So one of the things that I'm also doing is I'm really monitoring uh, how I'm eating. So eating seasonally. Right now we're in the summertime, so having a little ice cream here and there, but I'm only doing it if the sun is high in the sky. Like this is not a nighttime treat for me before bed. I am making sure that I am moving. I'm making sure that I'm staying hydrated. I am working through some sweat therapy outside predominantly. I don't have a sauna up here, but I do tend to like, using a heated blanket as well, that can also be helpful. So there's a number of things that you can do to treat stagnant lymph. I'm going to keep monitoring. I'm going to keep moving. I will tell you how I'm doing. Last month on my period, I was a little tender. I didn't get the migraine that I had the month before, so that was a real plus. I often can feel that it's rising and it just sits right back here on this occipital ridge, or as my friend Amanda says, the occiput. And when that happens, like it's almost immediate when my period starts, I feel this release and it just lets go. And so what I'm going to be monitoring is, am I feeling this rising energy coming up that creates the tension that's creating the pressure headache. The last thing that I'm going to be doing is some breath work. So when we take in air, we are moving things. That's why exercise is so darned important, is because you end up moving you get the heart rate going, but you're also breathing and you're moving the lungs at a faster pace. You're taking in more oxygen. And so I'm going to be doing a couple of different pranayamas that are specific for helping lymph to move. I hope that you found this enjoyable and kind of interesting. I'll keep you posted on how I'm feeling. I'm at the early stages, like I am on this immediately. I'm noticing what's going on in my body because I know what my baseline feels like. I know where I feel good. And when I'm just slightly off of that, I want to jump on that immediately to bring myself back into harmony. So if you find that you're kind of maybe on the further extreme, come see me and we can talk about it and we can put together an appropriate routine to help you come back into some balance. And then, the other thing that I would recommend, if you are experiencing a lot of lymph symptoms, then it's probably wise to think about doing one of the cleanses, or getting on a consistent routine of doing the twice annual cleanses. That's in spring and autumn. The cleanses reset every hormone system in your body, and it also helps to move lymph by creating and producing more bile. And so you're moving stuff out of the deep subcutaneous fat layers. So the cleanse is also a really, really great idea. We're right now in June, so I wouldn't be doing a cleanse right now. I think that would be too hard on my body. So I'm going to try these other methods first and then see how I'm feeling, see what I'm noticing, and see where I need to maybe strike up some more improvement. I hope that was helpful. I will chat with you guys later. Bye.